All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 634 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern Atlanta Falcons football. I don't have Georgia Southern on deck today, but they did start their practice today, and they look pretty sharp. One thing that stood out was the fact that they, beefed up a lot of players because they had a lot of injuries from last year. And you could tell that they are trying to prevent that as much as possible. So I'm not going to go too far into it on this episode, but I am going to go more in depth once we see what the practices or how the practices are more or less, because, it's just the first day. You got to get the kinks out or whatever the case may be. Not much to report. Only thing I know that the players look like they're much more physical. They look bigger. They look a little bit stronger and look like they're trying to prevent some injuries. So shout out to the strength and conditioning coach and the nutrition staff of getting those guys together. So we'll talk about that at a later time. Today, we're going to talk about Zach Harrison, defensive end from Ohio State, was drafted by the Falcons in the third round. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Desmond Ridder as well. I've got a little bit of concern about him because with all the ups and downs of his game, one thing that's starting to stick out, and it may not be a liability, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I can be found on YouTube or Rumble. I'm also on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I still haven't found the final date of Stitcher, how long that's going to be up, so I'm definitely going to look into that within the next couple of days, so I'll let you guys know. Stitcher, I think they're going to be down sometime at the end of the month, so if you are on Stitcher, jump over to Spotify or the Apple or Google podcast avenues. Also, I can be found on X at VF Baller, and the website is firstandframerates.com. So I want to appreciate all you guys who've been watching the content, who's been listening to the content. You guys are absolutely amazing. I cannot thank you guys enough. And with that being said, we're going to get right into it. Zach Harrison, like I said, third round pick, 75th overall, standing at 6'5", 274 pounds, looking like every bit of his size. Saw some clips of him in training camp running over offensive linemen, getting at the quarterback, and he's playing well above his draft pick status. So he's playing as a third rounder, but you're starting to see flashes of him as a second or maybe second early rounder. It's actually impressive. A lot of people told me this kid is a guy that we should be happy to have, and I'm starting to see that. So look like along with all the other pass rushes that we have, you're just going to add another one to the mix. You got Ebikete, you got Keaton Ellis, Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett. The list goes on and on. And there's already rumblings that this Falcons defense is something that you don't want to play with. A lot of people are saying that this Falcons defense is not nice. They're looking really good. So you may want to find your way away from this defense if you're trying to be physical with them. So that's really good to see. Not much as far as numbers. He played, he didn't do too much in his college career. It was not much to be desired when you look at the numbers, but when you do look at him on tape, you're looking at a guy who's like ready to go. I'm looking at all the things that I like to see in a player. He has strength, he has size, he has speed, and this kid looked like he's going to be everything that is advertised. When I was it was Twitter at the time. And people were telling me, no, you guys are getting a really good player. This kid is not nice. He's going to be really good for your team. You need pass rush, and that's what you're going to get. So I'm sitting here thinking, all right, I hear this. I see this. Let's see how this plays out. It's just something to really be excited about, because we're not that good at getting at the quarterback. We haven't been that good for the past few years. And bring like 2 or 3 more guys in. You can even probably make the case as 3 or 4 other guys in that can get at the quarterback. It's going to be a priority. And for him to be in the position to start impressing the staff and impressing other players, and also getting a nod of Calais Campbell, you're probably setting yourself up with long-term success. You know, you got Evan Kete 1 year, you got Taquan Graham another year, now you got Zach Harrison here, and you already got the other guys that you signed in free agency. That front seven already said, I mean, that front seven is already going to be something serious. It's going to be nothing nice. It's going to be pushing people around and slapping people over. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You want a nasty, physical, and fast front seven. So anybody want to drop back to pass is going to be in a world of hurt. Not to mention how the secondary is looking good with Terrell, Okuda, and even Clark Phillips is showing out. You know, and that is something that we really going to be impressed at, in my opinion, because I already know AJ Terrell, first round pick, he's lived up to the hype. Jeff Okuda, not so much, but he's coming along pretty well. Look like that's going to work out. Going to be a hell of a steal that we got from the Lions. And Clark Phillips should have been a first round pick. Looking at this kid on tape, looking the way that he handled playing against Drake London and others, this kid should have been a first round pick. Yes, his size probably dropped him down, but there's no way he should have been a fifth round pick, which I'm not going to go too far into our secondary because you still got Bates, you still got Richie Grant as well, and a couple of others. So it's going to be a nightmare for a lot of defenses. Also, is a good thing that Bijan Robinson is on our team. If you've been looking at the clips, you know what I mean by that. Now, let's segue the secondary to the passing game. Desmond Ridder, is he having trouble throwing the deep ball? This is something that I'm not going to lie. I'm a little concerned about this. I'm a little concerned because he looks very sharp with his intermediate game, his short game, but in some cases, we should have opportunities to throw the ball down the field, especially if we're able to run the ball with Algier, Patterson, and Bijan Robinson. We should have some type of some type of opportunity to throw the ball downfield. And every time I'm looking, I'm not gonna say every time, more times than not, when I'm looking at deep balls being underthrown. I'm looking at deep balls not really getting where they need to be, and I'm not going to say it's a complete concern, but I am looking at that with the side eye, like, okay, what is going on here? Is this something that, you know, just early kinks you just got to work out? Is it something that it could be addressed, you know, within training camp, which I think it could. I mean, throwing the deep ball is not necessarily the end of the world. You know, that's something that could be worked on within repetition and time. But I didn't expect Desmond Ridder to have this type of issue, if it is an issue. I mean, it's just something that I seen for myself. Maybe I'm tripping, but I would like to see that cleaned up. Now, there's a couple of clips out there with, you know, Desmond Ridder, showing Desmond Ridder in a bad light. I mean, they always do that. I mean, not just with Desmond Ridder, but with any quarterback. You know, when training camp comes, you're going to see a ball thrown behind somebody, and then all of a sudden it's the end of the world. But then again, once you look at it in context, you know, 90 to 95% of their passes was like on point. So you're like, okay, it's not as dire as they're making it seem out to be. So with that being said, is he struggling, or is it, you know, is it just something that's, you know, it happens, or is nothing and I shouldn't be concerned? It's something to really think about when you look at, you know, the way this team is set up. A lot of people say, oh, you're going to run the ball. I mean, have you seen Bijan Robinson run some of these routes? Have you seen what Drake London can do? Have you seen what Kyle Pitts and Mac Hollins was doing? You know, I mean, these guys are actually going out there and running routes and catching footballs. You want to think we'll run first if you want to. Go ahead and put 8 in the box. And like I said, Desmond Ridder is lights out in the short and intermediate game. You put 8 in the box, you're going to find some openings for that type of passing game. You might not have enough time to throw the ball deep, but you have enough time to get that ball out quickly, which, like I said, Desmond Ridder has been excelling at. So I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little concerned about the deep passes because I want to see Drake London get a, 35, 45, 55-yard bomb, over the top. I would love to see that. I would love to see any of our players catch those type of footballs. But if he can't get it there and to be more of a liability, I'm a little bit concerned about that. So other than that, don't have much else to say. Fairly short episode. There's not much to really talk about. I mean, one thing I will say is that the press conferences are very, very different from last year and the year before. A lot more upbeat. The guys are much more happier. There's a lot going on with this team that they're more comfortable in being a part of a camaraderie, which is the Atlanta Falcons football team. Last year there was a lot of, timidness, some uptight questions, a bunch of what ifs and why nots. But now it's more like, okay, what are you going to do? What is there to do? What are you guys are executing? How you guys can make it happen? It's like the whole tone of these press conferences have changed, because I think some teams, I ain't gonna say some teams, but some journalists, some press media is starting to buy into what's going on here. And that's the beautiful thing. That's what you want to see when your team is up and coming. You don't want to be having to ask these crazy questions about who's doing what and what's going to happen if this happened, but the coaching staff in the front office have been doing a pretty good job of deflecting those questions. But when you look at on in training camp, the picture's in the pudding. I mean, I'm here. I'm loving what the defense is doing. But I'm a little concerned about Desmond Ridder's deep passes. But I think that's something that can be corrected. It's not the end of the world, but there is something there that would give you some type of, concern. So if you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think. Am I overreacting with Desmond Ridder? What about Zach Harrison? I mean, he's looking pretty good. What about this team in general? It's been almost a week full of a training camp. Team don't look too bad. First day of practice for Georgia Southern, don't look too bad. Hopefully these two teams can have some success throughout the season. I can be found on YouTube and Rumble, also on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Podcasts, also on X at VFBaller, and the website is firstandframerates.com. I am going to get up out of here. It's been a long day, and I'm going to rest my nerves. I will see you guys on the next one. You guys have a fantastic evening. I'll see you on tomorrow. You guys take it easy, and y'all be blessed. Peace.